Hi spooky craft friends, it's Belle here and I am back with week 2 of my October daily flip through. If you don't know yet, I am following the October daily prompts created by Pink Oddbird and Relief the Crafting. I will leave links to both of their channels down below. I've also taken part in a collaboration to do with these prompts. And I will leave, if you go to Pink Oddbird's channel, you should be able to find out how to actually get these prompts for yourself if you haven't already. So let's get started then, guys. So we did days 1 to 7 in the last flip through. And if you haven't seen that already, then I will leave a link to that video down below. So we are on we are on day 8. So the prompt, I'm just making sure you're in camera. The prompt for day 8 was, so we've just heard footsteps upstairs, and yeah, we were just in the library, and then I heard thud, thud, thud. You hear footsteps heading upstairs towards the master bedroom. Running up the stairs, what do you notice? So I noticed that the wallpaper in the hallway upstairs is really damp and kind of decrepit and really needs replacing. And also, there seems to be plants growing actually out of the wallpaper itself and then writing behind the wallpaper. And I really love how this page turned out. I really love the grunginess of it, and there's also lots of moths fluttering about. So I used some Tim Holtz wallpaper, did some stitching, did some die cuts, used both vintage book page and vintage handwritten, which if you notice, some of it is also from this page. So I'm trying to use the same things throughout the whole of the journal, because if you didn't know already, all these prompts come together to create a story. So I want a cohesiveness to my pages. And then on it says, horrible sight, cold and slimy, distress beyond measure. She still shuddered. And then just tucked in here, I can find where it's tucked in now. Where did I tuck it in? It is here, yeah. Just tucked in here is a little hand-dyed index card with some book page, book spine from an old vintage book, which again I've used on a previous page. Another plant and stitching, and it says, suddenly as I stood looking at the raven, that was the raven from this one, I heard footsteps above me. This house was just so creepy. And here's my cat joining me. Topaz, out the light, sweetheart. This house was just so creepy. Gathering all my courage, I ran up the stairs to investigate. As soon as I reached the landing, I had to stop. Up here, the damp and decay was worse. The walls had plants ripping through them, and the damp wallpaper and moths fluttered everywhere. I felt as if I was back in the greenhouse, and then I felt eyes looking at me. So that is day 8. I just love how this one turned out. I used lots of inks and stamps and things on it. Day 9. What was the prompt? No one is in the bedroom when you enter. Once in the room, you notice a giant creepy tree outside the window. So I used some leftover digital. I believe this was a Release the Crafting digital, as well as some scrapbook paper and some Tim Holtz fabric tape, and then I made a window out of corrugated card, painted it black and gilded it because I wanted it to have an old rundown feel. And then I had some of this black lace, which I actually sewed on backwards, but I don't think that matters, and I cut it and frayed it. And if you pull the curtain aside, so I did some inking techniques to give it like a mottled storm sky. And then I painted this tree, and I'm hoping you can see there's bubbling, because what I did was I put paint on the tree. So I painted the tree first, and then I put more paint on. And whilst it was wet, I put my heat gun quite near to it to get this weird bubbled gnarled effect. And I said, now I stand where darkness falls, these very woods crept into shadowy relief. And there's my owl. And then just here at the side, oh, gotta grab it, is where my tuck spot is. And again, I've used some Tim Holtz fabric tape, and there's my prompt. And it says, trying to ignore the creepy walls, moths, and feeling of being watched, I stepped into the bedroom. Once again, books and plants were everywhere. I heard an owl outside, and as I pulled the curtain from the window, I noticed the night was almost fully here, and a storm seemed to be moving closer. There on the windowsill sat a huge owl looking straight at me. What was it with all these winged creatures? Beyond the owl stood a huge black tree, black in shadows, the branches reaching towards the window, and its bark seemed distorted and twisted. Once again, I got the feeling there was a living entity watching me, creeping ever closer. So that just tucks in there. And again, my cat's here. So this is day 10. I've actually got a video of me making this because this was my day to do my first prompt for the challenge. So I'll leave that down below. So in case you didn't see it, day 10, suddenly a gust of wind causes the bedroom door to slam. What message is carved onto the door? And you can see I've used some tea-dyed and slightly burnt parchment paper. So it kind of reminded me of a creaky door. I've used burnt ember mica. There's vintage book page, scrapbook paper, and stitching, topaz. The number 10's down here. And then just up the top here is this little card. There's my prompt. Suddenly the bedroom door slammed shut, making me jump, and my breath caught in my throat. As I turned really slowly around, heart thudding, eyes closed. I stood there for a moment, opened my eyes slowly, and there, carved into the back of the old wooden door, was the message, I am lost. A joke, maybe? It seemed too high to be made by a child, which made the message even more ominous, as it must have been deliberate. Who was lost? And lost where? So that's day 10. Shush, no, out of the way. Excuse me, baby. So now we have day 11. Slowly, and it would be slowly, believe me. Slowly, you open the door and you notice there's a shadowy figure standing there. Upon being noticed, it runs away. What was it doing? So again, I got my Tim Holtz wallpapers and I just got grunging it up. I used some of the grit paste here and I absolutely love because I used my heat gun again to kind of burn it and the paper, and it just gives the whole of the wall this weird, yucky, damp looking feeling. I've ripped all the wallpaper again. I've inked it, wet it, torn it. There's vintage Greek grammar book behind there. Topaz, it's on your tail, sweetheart. Thank you. Again, there's the plants because, as I've said before, they're going all throughout. Foliage is kind of a theme in my story. And then this image is actually, are you seriously lying there? Is actually printed onto vellum so that you can see the wallpaper through it, and also it's just got this weird kind of creepy sound to it, and it's quite a creepy image. So let's find the tuck area here. There's my prompt, and again some of that book spine, vintage book spine. I very slowly open the door and I freeze. There in the hall was a ghost-like figure that seemed to literally be coming out of the very wall itself. I could see the paper through it, and its dead eyes looked straight towards me, a hand reaching forward. Was it an illusion created by the dim light and the whole atmosphere? It ripped itself free from the wall and finally ran down the corridor. Nope. Definitely not an illusion. And again, the moths, I've carried it on because this is the hallway again. Similar to here, I wanted foliage and moths. Can you hear the dogs in the background? It's like they're howling. It must be the wind. Day 12. And we have this scene. The prompt was, you chase the figure downstairs into the kitchen. At the table is a plate of freshly prepared food. What is on this plate? So this is my page for today. I printed out an image of like a gothic Victorian table, and then I printed out some, I wanted a lot of meat. There is a reason. And then some more Tim Holtz wallpaper. Got a Tim Holtz flower down here that's faded. Then I put some red fabric and stitched it in a pleated pattern, so it almost looks to me like the tablecloth coming off. Then I just did some inking and stamping and a little what they called rub on up there. And then up here is my card. I've written on in white, and there's my prompt. Gathering all my courage, I chased the spectre until it finally led me into a huge kitchen at the base in the basement of the house. Where did it go to? I couldn't see it anywhere, but the air had an icy chill still to it, so it couldn't have gone far. I suddenly noticed a beautiful, elegant table richly dressed in deep reds, stunning roses, and crystal glasses that twinkled in candlelight. A huge plate full of glistening meats, a pig with an apple in its mouth, and berries all over. A huge carving knife was left stuck in the top of some of the meat, as if someone had literally just been sitting down to dinner and was about to carve some. So again, I followed the red up here as at the bottom so that it looks like the table runner. Topaz, you really are my light, sweetheart. Can you please get down? Over here. Over here. Stop meowing at me. Thank you. And the meats itself, I've actually glossed to make them look glistening. Now, as someone who is basically vegan, definitely vegetarian, but certainly plant-based, a big plate of meats is not the most appetizing. But again, it plays in. Oh, and I forgot to say over here, the words I put on here is at my chamber door, gathering of ominous forces. And then Topaz, sweetheart. And then here it says along the passage, courage strong, using the Tim Holtz words to kind of add to the story. Then we have day 13. Oh, gosh. Tucked under the plate is a mysterious invitation to a strange Halloween party. What does it look like? So I printed one out. So I sort of put my own words, printed it out on some tea-dyed paper, inked it all around, and actually did burn it through. You can see the creepy eye looking because I'm looking at it. I'm reading it. So yeah, and I've used some of the same kind of papers that I've been using throughout to give it this beautiful kind of gothic look. Another wax seal, which I've used on the first page too. So is this invitation from the same people who sent me the actual deed to the house in the first place. Oh my gosh, Topaz, move, 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 move. And it says, you are cordially invited on this Halloween night to a very special party full of magic, full of frights. At the stroke of midnight, the fun will all begin. Make sure you are ready for all the night will bring. And then, as my tuck spot on this page, because so you can see my number 13 there, again faded, as I've tried to use throughout. This is actually magnetized, this butterfly. And this lifts up, and I've got all this little collage. Curious and shake well. I notice a note under the plate and tentatively pull it out. It's creased and burnt in places, but still readable. It's an invitation to a Halloween party. This place is getting stranger and stranger. Who sent it? Who sent it? Who was it for? With Halloween almost here, does it mean tonight? The message itself holds a note of mischief, and I can't shake that feeling. I really should leave before midnight finally comes. So to leave that in place, this magnetizes, which means this butterfly or moth can also move. There we go. So finally, day 14. Ding dong! It's the doorbell and the sound of kids, maybe trick-or-treaters, through the glass of the door. you see shadows taller than children. So again, I used a Tim Holtz paper that's sort of wooden, and then I stamped it and used more of that burnt ember to give it that like creased look. My 14's up there. I cut a window out of it, and I'm really hoping you can see that through this window. Let's see if my torch works well on here. Through this window are figures. And again, foliage. I'm hoping that picks up so you can really see the figures standing there, and this is some acetate obviously, but because I don't know if they're that visible and I don't know quite what I want to do, I've actually just put a little clip here and I haven't fully glued it yet, so that's what it looks like underneath. So I have to decide whether I'm going to fully glue it or not. Anyway, and that burnt ember just gives it that gorgeous glint on there. So here it says, strange visitor, eyes fixed unwaveringly upon them. And that's where my prompt is. And then I have, so this is a little tuck spot, and then I have these two little pieces. Before I can think anymore, I hear the doorbell, and it sounds like children. Very slowly, I creep towards the front door, still clutching the letter, and peer through the window. There in the gloom stood 3 unnaturally tall figures, eerily silent and still. Yep, this really definitely did not seem like children or typical trick-or-treaters. What was going on? So they are my days. So we've seen the hallway that's all mottled and damp with the moths and the plants crawling through. We've gone into the bedroom and seen a super creepy tree with a storm coming and an owl just staring at me. Then the door slams shut and this strange message says, "I am lost." I slowly open the door. I love the fact it's on another page, so it actually feels like I'm opening the door. And there is a very creepy, shadowy figure looking at me. And I'm really, really hoping it's just an illusion. But it's really not, because it then runs down the corridor. And then following it, I go into this beautiful kitchen with this gorgeous meal that's been freshly cooked and looks like someone was just about to sit down and tear into it all. But there's no one there. But I notice a note. And this note seems to be warning me of a Halloween party coming up. And it really sounds like it could be a very creepy and bit scary. And then, before I can think about it or even decide what I'm going to do, the doorbell goes. And there, as I look through the window, are these 3 weirdly tall and silent people. Oh, I just love this time of year. So that is my next 7 days. So we are up to day 14, almost halfway through. I've had a couple of you try and guess what the story is. Some of you have been close, but not right yet. So again, let me know where you think. I have put little clues all the way throughout this in my actual imagery or the words that I've used as to this kind of story, the classic gothic story that has inspired me. And yeah, I really hope you like it. I am loving how this is turning out. Funny enough, this is probably one of my least favorite pages, or this, probably because I rushed them on camera. And this is probably one of my favorite pages because it's just so creepy and gross looking. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. I will be back next week to do the next weekly flip through and tell you more of my story. And I hope you're really enjoying it, guys. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you're safe. And I hope you're all having lots of spooky craft fun. Bye for now.